What is up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about five $200 gaming smartphones that you can use to play Fortnite, Call of Duty, PUBG, mostly on high settings. And we're also going to be talking about some other things that make these phones great for gaming as well. First off is the Redmi Note 9S. Now, I reviewed this phone a while ago, so you can go check out all of the videos I did on it. And this is a pretty interesting phone. So it's a massive phone at 6.67 inches. It has a 1080p display with a little punch hole, as you can see. I really like that feature because it makes the phone just much more immersive to game on. So what I love about this phone is that you have a massive 5020 milliamp battery. So if you're into gaming on your phone and you hate charging your phone constantly, this is a really solid option. That's why I really like this one. You have some great battery life on here. So this model does come with the Snapdragon 720G. You have the 4 or 6 gig of RAM capacity, and as you can see from the gaming test, you can go ahead and watch that as well. You can play games all on high except for Fortnite. Fortnite does run on medium setting, so I found it to be perfectly fine. It was definitely playable, but if you want it at the highest settings, then check out some of the other phones on this list. But again, the highlight mostly with this phone is that you have that 5020 milliamp battery for gaming. The Snapdragon 720G is really fast as well. I had no problems bouncing in and out of games and stuff like that, even applications. Just overall very fast phone. You have Android 10 with MIUI 11 on top, so they throw in a lot of gaming features as well. You have a built-in recorder on there, so you could record your gameplay if you're into that type of stuff. You also have micro SD support as well as 64 gigs of internal storage on that 4 gig of RAM version. If you get the 6 gig, you'll get 128 gigs. You also have a decently loud speaker as well. So overall, this is a really solid option. You have a quad camera setup as well, so if you want to check the photos that I took of that. But this is just a solid phone overall. Next is the LG G7. You can find this one for exactly 200 and under, so it's a really great price for this older flagship. So we looked at this phone intensely, so if you want to see a lot of videos on it, do check that out on the channel. This is great for gaming because of the Snapdragon 845 chip. It's just very capable. You can play pretty much all games on high settings, so how awesome is that to be able to do that for 200 bucks? So Call of Duty, Fortnite, whatever, you will be able to play. Now the base model is 4 gigs of RAM. The highlight with this phone is the design. I love the design. It just feels really solid in the hands. A glass and metal design. It's IP68, dust and water resistant. You have an IPS display. It's a 6.1 inch display, so I guess more compact these days. So if you like that, then that'll be great. But the real highlight is the 1440p display with 564 for the PPI. So that means you're just getting an extremely sharp display to game on with a very high PPI. So that means everything is just going to look really crisp and clear on this display. So the awesome thing about this phone is it comes with Android 10 now. So that is really awesome to have the latest version of Android on this phone. So you have the Adreno 630 GPU. You have micro SD support, so you can expand the internal 64 gigs of storage as well. Another highlight with this phone is the speakers. You have a very loud and really nice, crisp and clear speaker on here. So one of my favorite things about this phone. And you have the quad DAC, so if you're into having your headphones on to get a really good experience while gaming, this phone is going to be the best at that. You have a 3000 milliamp battery, which is a little on the small side compared to some of these phones, but you get around 6 hours and 30 minutes of screen on time with this phone. So you might have to run to the charger at the end of the day, but I think it's worth it for everything you get with this phone. You get wireless charging as well, and NFC, so it pretty much has everything a flagship would have. The next phone is the Redmi Note 8 Pro. So I know we just looked at the 9S, which is the successor, but this phone is actually better, the base model, in a couple of ways. So let's go ahead and check that out. I actually like the design on this phone much better. This phone is right now, it's like 200, 219 or something like that. So it's still very cheap, and I like the design on this phone. It's a very kind of heavy phone and just feels super solid in the hand. Now you have an IPS display. It's a 6.53 inch display, 1080p, $395 for the PPI. A pretty good display, no real issues. You get Android 10, MIUI 11. So why I still have this phone on the list is that you have the Helio G90T processors and the Mali G76 GPU. So basically you can play Fortnite on high on this phone, and that 9S that I showed you could not play it. It can only play it on medium. This processor is faster than that 720G, so overall I like this phone. Now this does not have as big of a battery as that 9S, I actually think the cameras on here are actually better than that 9S as well. If you want to check those comparisons out, please do. But this is still a super solid option to check out. Like I said, you have a 4,500 milliamp battery, so you're getting around 7 hours to 8 hours of screen on time, depending on how you use it, which I think is most definitely fine. You do have expandable storage on here, and with this base model, you get 6 gigs of RAM, which is really awesome, and 64 gigs of internal storage, so you can expand that storage as well, which is something that I always appreciate. So this phone does have NFC, the infrared port. So this phone is just super solid for gaming. Great cameras, great display, great chip on this phone. Like, you have the latest software as well, so very awesome device here. Next is the LG V40. So you can think of this as pretty much like a big G7 with some additional features. So you have the glass and metal design, it's IP68, but the difference here is you have a POLED display. So you have a 6.4 inch POLED display instead of the IPS on that G7. So that means this display is just overall better. Its colors are just more vibrant, and it's actually a brighter display. It is a 1440p display, 537 for the PPI, so a beautiful display again. Very high res. That's definitely one of the highlights with this phone. You have the same Snapdragon 845 and Adreno 630 GPU on here. This phone is upgradable to Android 10, so you're getting the same performance as the G7. You will be able to play pretty much everything on high as well. You have expandable storage, 64 gigs of internal storage and 6 gigs of RAM. So the biggest difference with this phone is that you have the bigger display at 6.4 inches instead of the 6.1. So if you want just a bigger phone, and also you do get additional cameras. So you have a wide angle camera up front for group selfies. You have a telephoto camera as well, so very good for portrait shots. So overall that's pretty much like the biggest difference. You have a slightly bigger battery, but you're not going to notice a huge battery increase with this phone since you have a bigger display. You have the wireless charging, fast charging, so like I said, it's just a big G7 with a few additional features. Now I wanted to throw in a phone for Apple users, and the iPhone 7 you can get for around 200 bucks. This is still a very good gaming phone, and also if you're into just more compact phones and something that's just really small, this has a 4.7 inch display as well, so a very tiny display. It is a 720p plus display, 326 for the PPI, 625 for the brightness, and overall it's a pretty solid panel. It was fairly bright outdoors, very colorful, so no issues with this phone. You still have a very solid aluminum design on here, which is something that I love. It's IP67 dust and water resistant. This runs the latest version of iOS. It will run iOS 14. It might even get iOS 15, honestly. This is still solid for gaming. Like I said, if you're into compact, you can play pretty much most games on high. Be sure to check out all the videos I've done on the iPhone 7. It's got the Apple A10 chip, which is definitely capable still, and not just for gaming, just overall browsing the web, bouncing in and out of applications. This is going to be a super solid phone. You have 32 gigs of storage and 2 gigs of RAM, so that's the only thing I would fault this phone for. Not even the RAM, because you won't notice that because of how well iOS is optimized. It's the storage, so you might have to store a lot of stuff in the cloud because 32 gigs might not be enough if you're into a lot of heavy gaming. You have a solid camera on here, a 12 megapixel camera, shoots in 4K, very nice. The front camera is pretty good as well. Pretty loud stereo speakers on here as well. Not the loudest, but pretty decent. You have the NFC for Apple Pay. Here's my problem with this phone. If you're going to be gaming kind of hard on this phone, just know that you're going to be charging this phone. So you have a 1060 milliamp battery, I did a battery drain test on this phone a while ago, and you're getting around I think it was around 4 hours and 30 minutes of screen on time, maybe 5, but my battery health was pretty good. So that's what you're looking at. So with hard use, which is fine for most people, that's the trade-off. And again, iOS has a lot of great stuff, FaceTime, iMessage, stuff like that. So overall, I just love this phone still. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.